Are there any questions? Are there any questions?
What is the meaning of life?
I beg your pardon?
What is the meaning of life?
Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't know. You might have the answer, and I would hate to miss it because I was too socially inhibited to ask.
Once, and only once.
I asked the question.
What is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life?
And got a serious answer. One that is still with me. The place where this happened has a distinct power of its own. On the Greek island of Crete, near a small village on a rocky bay, sits an institute devoted to human understanding and peace, and especially to the reconciliation between Germans and the natives of Crete.
The site is important because it overlooks a small airstrip where the Nazi paratroopers invaded the island and were met with peasants with kitchen knives and hay scythes.
The retribution was horrible. Populations of entire villages were lined up and shot for assaulting Hitler's finest troops.
High above the Institute is a cemetery with a single cross marking the mass grave of the native partisans. Across the bay, on another hill, the regimented burial ground of the Nazi paratroopers. The memorials are placed so that all can see and never forget.
Hatred was the only weapon the Greeks had left at the end. It was the one weapon they vowed never to give up.
In this historical place where the stone of hatred is hard and thick, the existence of an institute devoted to healing the wounds of war is a fragile paradox.
So, how has it come to be here?
The answer's a man, Alexander Papaderos, doctor of philosophy, teacher, politician, son of the soil. After the war, Papaderos came to believe that the people of Crete and the people of Germany had a lot to learn from each other, had a lot to give each other. And if they could forgive and construct a creative relationship, then anyone on the earth could.
But Papaderos succeeded. The institute was on the site of horror and it became a conference ground, a source of productive interaction between the two countries. By the time I came there for the summer session, Alexander Papaderos was already a living legend. One look at him, you could see his strength, his intelligence, and his passion.
On the last day, the last session of the 2-week seminar, Papaderos rose from his chair at the back of the classroom, and he walked to the front, and he stood in the bright Greek sunlight of an open window, and he looked out.
We followed his gaze across the bay to the iron cross that marked the German cemetery. He turned and asked,
Are there any questions?
so I asked, Dr. Papaderos, what is the meaning of life?
People laughed at the absurdity of that question and started to go.
He raised his hand and stilled the room.
I will answer the question.
He fished into his leather billfold and pulled out a small mirror. And what he said went like this.
At the end of the war, when I was a small boy, we were very, very poor. We lived out in a very remote village. And one day along the road, I found pieces of a broken mirror. A German motorcycle had been destroyed here.
And I tried to find all the pieces and put them together, but it was not possible, so I kept only the largest piece, this one. And by scratching it on a stone, made it round. I began to play with it and became fascinated by the fact that I could shine light into the most darkest of places, like crevices and dark closets. It became a game for me to try to shine light into the most inaccessible places that I could find.
I kept that little mirror through my childhood, and in idle times I'd take it out and renew the challenge of the game. But as I became an adult, I realized, came to the understanding that I am not the light, or the source of the light, but that the light, truth,
Understanding.
and knowledge is there, and will shine in dark places only if I reflect it.
I am but a fragment of a mirror whose design and shape I do not know. Nonetheless, with what I have, I can reflect light into the dark places of this world. black places in the hearts of men. I can change some things in some people. Others may see and do likewise. This is what I'm about. This is the story of my life.
And then taking his small mirror, he caught the bright red rays of sunlight streaming through the window, and he reflected them onto my face and onto my hands folded across the desk.
Are there any questions?
Are there any questions?